Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Reels Like the First Time. My journey to try to experience everything film has to offer, the good and the bad, all for the very first time. Joining me today to discuss Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift is the only person I could even think of to bring on here. You may have seen him a few times over on the Montyverse YouTube channel. He's also been a guest a few times on the amazing Fancast at 4 podcast. It is the only person who I think truly understands the definition of the word family. It's Mr. Jon Lastrina. Hi, John.
Hi, Dan. I'm sorry. I can only officially say hi to one person. His name is Dan, so I will say hi, Dan, to get that out of the way, and then say hello, Allison.
How are you doing? It's so good to see
I am
you.
well. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. I'm really excited to have you on board, especially to talk about Tokyo Drift. Especially, we are in the week of Fast 10 release. So, how are you feeling about that?
Very, very mixed emotions. Very excited, very nervous, very scared. The trailers are amazing. If you haven't seen them, you should because it's going to be really, really awesome, and I can't wait. I'm so excited. It's
Yeah,
gonna be a good one.
it's
It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be wild. It's gonna be fun.
I feel like they just get wilder and wilder as they go on. Before we dive deep into the third installment in the Fast and Furious franchise, I love to get a little bit of background information from you, and I would love to learn where you feel like your love for movies and films started.
When I was a little one. I have very fond memories of watching the 1990 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film a lot. With especially with my mom and my brother and my family, and then Top Gun also is a very early movie that is a very Lastrina family classic, along with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mighty Ducks, and A Few
Sure.
Good Men. I mean, all of those kind of are very family classics. So I've
No,
always
I just have to interrupt real quick. I love your list of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. um,
yeah,
but you round it all out with A Few Good Men. I feel like that is such a
yeah, it's a good one.
wide breadth.
It's a good one. My mom was a big fan of young Tom Cruise, and then kind of when he went a little crazy, he was like, oh, "Okay, I don't know how I feel about that now, but still like she still to this day will call all of us children to tell us when Top Gun is going to be on TV to make sure we know." I was like, "Mom, we bought you the DVD for Christmas one year. You have it. You own it. We all own it," which is
That's
great.
amazing. That's amazing. So sorry, I digress. I didn't mean to interrupt. I just loved that little
Yeah,
range that you all have or that you have. It's
yeah.
amazing.
But also too, what was fun growing up is there was a Blockbuster that was literally existed right down the street around the corner, like literally.
Hmm.
So go there and they get like every week be able to rent a film. And then I remember being big into Star Wars, and then I do remember the original Fast and the Furious when that came out, renting it quite a bit and watching that as well when that came out. So
That's
it was very nice to
awesome.
have a Blockbuster very local, and then it went bye bye. I think now it's like a ravioli place or something.
I mean, at least are the raviolis good?
It's not bad, not bad.
That's good. But so then kind of my next question into this is obviously I knew that there was no other question of who to ask for a Fast and the Furious movie discussion, but I would love to know where your love for this franchise.
I watched it a lot, and it was just the coolest thing. I mean, the cars were cool, the soundtrack was cool. I, Paul Walker and Vin Diesel were both really cool, and obviously Michelle Rodriguez was very beautiful, and Jordana Brewster, very beautiful, and still very beautiful. And then just the other characters were great and fun. It was just a cool movie, I guess, when you're young, and I never really was like big into
Mhm.
cars. I guess I never really cared. But they just looked cool with the paint jobs and going fast, and just the idea of street racing was really, really fun and cool, and just the idea of just them all really coming together as a family and not really even being family, except for Dom and Mia in that first film were the only ones that were actually
Mhm.
family. But everyone else just kind of just came together, and even though it wasn't back then, it wasn't big. The how idea of family wasn't as big known. It was still all about family, and I've always been very coming from a very tight knit, loving family, and I do have always had friends that are not family but are our family, and then
Mhm.
family friends that are family. So that whole idea was really spoke to me and still does. And then I do remember when Too Fast Too Furious came out, and then and especially in what was it, freshman history class, I want to say. Yeah, that would have been the right time. Yeah, and then people were talking about I'd seen it, and they're talking, oh my god, you see the ending? Oh, there's definitely going to be another one. And then it was a few years later, in 2006, so we got Tokyo
Yeah.
Drift, and then the rest, as they say, is history going on. And really, for me, exploding with the addition of The Rock to uh, the cast and the family,
Mhm.
and Fast Five because I love The Rock because I'm a big wrestling fan as well. And as each movie just gets more and more exciting, and really just to round things off, especially with the whole COVID thing. Really, just I remember doing a big whole rewatch of them all, and just even before COVID, and still, and it's like wow, like movies are really all so much more fun than I could ever imagine and want them to be. And it was just so fun just to constantly rewatch and find new things
Mhm.
and find new quotes. So just they're just really fun to me, and I love
Yeah.
them, and I'm so glad that they exist.
Absolutely. So, just so you know, for the amount of the ones that I've now seen for Fast and the Furious movies, is I've seen the first 2, and then we went on,
Nice.
one of the many jobs that I've had in the last, 6 or 7 years. We did, like, a team building for, like, all the upper management individuals, and our team building was going to one of those XD movies, and I think we saw, uh it's either the 7th, I think it was the 7th one, the one where there's the submarine and they're driving on the ice, and then the submarine pops up. I think that's the 7th one?
That would be the Fate of the Furious. Fate of the Furious, which is the
8th.
eighth
So
movie,
I've
the one
seen
that's after
that one.
Furious
So
One.
I have seen
Oh,
1, 2, I went 1, 2, 8, and then I came back to Tokyo Drift. So we're slowly
okay.
we're getting there.
There's some gaps to fill
Quite
in,
a few.
so
Quite a few.
but we'll get there. We'll get there one day. We'll get
Absolutely.
there.
We're gonna get there super fast because I have to say, this was probably out of all the 4 that I've now seen, this obviously I think the first one is just the first one. It's always gonna be kind of top tier for me. But I think right now this one might be like my second favorite of the 4 that I've seen.
For especially for I mean these going on just the ones that you've
Mhm.
seen. I don't want to speak to other ones because you have not seen them, and that might I don't want to skew things.
Sure.
But for these ones that you have seen, definitely the first two will always hold a special place in my heart because they are so quotable,
Mhm.
uh, and they're just so fun. But this one, Tokyo Drift, the more I watch it, the more I have an appreciation and love for, and it keeps creeping up higher on my list
Yeah.
because there's just certain characters in this film that are awesome that I love
Yeah.
dearly.
So let's dive into it. So released in 2006, this is the first one that was directed by Justin Lin, correct? Okay.
Yes,
So first one directed by Justin Lin. According to I think like Rotten Tomatoes and Wikipedia, worldwide I think it grossed like over 158 billion dollars. Or million. No,
billion.
million,
Whoa,
million.
whoa,
I
billion.
did a
Whoa,
typo.
whoa.
I did a typo. That's a
Uh
typo.
oh,
You like that typo? $1 million.
classic.
Only you would be on the show with the typo. It's great.
Mhm.
It's great. So a million worldwide. I mean, not too terrible. Um, do you remember when you went to like? So do you remember the first time you saw this? Did you go see this one in a theater as well?
Yeah, so yeah, that would have been yeah, into senior year in high school, I believe. Yeah. So I do remember. I remember obviously in looking back now, it is the most disconnect at the time,
Mhm.
disconnected and issues with like Paul Walker not coming back and Vin Diesel not coming back, kind of that whole thing, and really just taking it to a whole new scenery. Obviously, because we're going to Tokyo,
Right.
Japan, and whole new characters. But it is the one that has the most car stuff and the most street racing,
Yeah, that's
which is really
That's
cool.
the one thing that I think kept getting popped up for me, that one that I noticed in it based off of the other movies that I've seen, but, with certain like, with, like, talking with Frank or, like, talking with a few other people, they say that this is the one that they like, so for Frank, this is the one that he likes the most because of the amount of like racing and car stuff you get in it. Because it almost feels like there were some really cool cars in Fate of the Furious, but now we're leaning more on like this international, gang of crime fighters that drive really cool cars.
Yeah, and also touching on that of a lot of people's favorites, like John Cena when he was doing press junket for F9, was always saying that like Tokyo Drift is my favorite because he's a big into
Hmm.
cars. So that makes sense. Everyone who in customization and collecting cars, I mean, there's just so many cool cars. Much like, I mean, one of the coolest cars in the entire franchise, Han's
Yes.
Mazda RX,
Yes.
which is amazing.
Sweet, 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 sweet Han. We love Han in this house. There will be
It's great.
never be any sort of Han slander from this podcast in this house. Never, because he is the absolute best. Kind of going back to the one thing I didn't know about you kind of made a comment to is that they ended up going kind of this route with Tokyo Drift because there was disputes on whether or not Paul Walker and Vin Diesel would come back. So they were just like they wanted to keep the name and then just make another movie.
Yeah, basically,
Oh,
yeah.
that's cool.
Uh, and what's also cool too, I mean, if you ever want to do some extra credit, there is another Justin Lin film, earlier Justin Lin film, Better Luck Tomorrow, that features Sun Kang
Yes.
as a character named Han, and also who plays Earl in Tokyo. James Tobin, I think, is his actual real
Hmm.
name. He's also in Better Luck Tomorrow as a cousin of Han's cousin in that film, and then they've sort of retroactively said, "Oh yeah, this is Better Luck Tomorrow is an origin story for Han, the character of
Hmm.
Han, who is very much that same cool, similar self in Better Luck Tomorrow, which also a really great film if you get a chance to see it. Very early Justin Lin, sort of Asian Americans and the stereotypes and of just being and such a crime film who are just these kids in high school who are just bored and
Yeah.
do like a lot of petty crimes and escalates and escalates and escalates, and also was funded partially by MC Hammer because he
That
really
is
liked loved
so
the
cool.
idea.
What a cool little like side note for that. No, I do want to check that out because I did learn about that from watching this because I now have to become like an expert and deep dive into everything, which kind of brings us into a little bit of the whole idea of like if it's on Wikipedia, it's true. So, according to Wikipedia, and like you can help me fact check these two things. I think these
Mhm.
are the two most interesting ones that I found. So the first part that I had,
Now I'm scared. Now I need to reference this Wikipedia page as well.
go right ahead. Um,
Hold up,
so
I can
the
type.
the first one that I found that I thought was interesting was when this film was originally pitched before Justin Lin kind of like took over or anything like that. It was originally supposed to be pitched as Dom in Tokyo, learning how to drift while also like solving a crime or murder.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking about that. Yeah, I remember kind of reading something about that, and it just sort of. I don't know if that necessarily would have worked right.
Right.
Just
Oh, I agree. And
it's just I don't know. It just doesn't make sense for him to do. I mean, obviously, and if you go on, you'll find out that Dominic Toretto is a very big has his superpowers, so he's a great detective as well. If you'll watch Fast and Furious, you'll see. I don't want to spoil anything,
no
uh,
spoilers. Um,
but he's American Muscle. I don't really want to see him learning how to drift.
right. No, 100%.
Not that he can't, but I want to see him in his American Muscle cars.
Absolutely. And then the other thing that I thought was pretty fun was that there was a lot of filming like along the streets of Tokyo and like in the different cities where without permits because it was almost impossible to get them and they just kind of like would do it and it just the police were so nice it would take them like 10 to 15 minutes to even like come over and say something to them. So they just did a lot of like filming without permits just because they could.
Yeah, and they kind of just reference that too, like in the movie where like, oh, when they're driving away and Sean's like, oh crap, there's a cop right there, and Han's like, yeah, don't worry about it, man. Like they're not gonna bother. Their cars clock out at one whatever
Yeah.
kilometers per hour. They can't catch up
Yeah.
to us. They don't bother. The thing, which is great. I love that.
That was
Which is can go either as one, we don't have the budget for this type of chase right
Mhm.
now, or two, just like
Yeah,
whatever, man. They're just cool. They're just cool. They're just cool drivers.
exactly. Um,
And
Speaking of Han, I feel like he should have his own segment of this episode dedicated to him because he is just the best. I was so excited that I finally had could put like the gif of him like eating whatever the snacky was. I finally now
he's a
know
big
where it
snacker.
came
He's a
from.
big snacker. Mhm. It's great. I just love that first initial shot where he's just hanging out when Sean first goes, "Oh, cool cars, yeah." 'Cause he's a big car guy, you know. He only races for pink slips and all that, and he has no idea what he's doing, kind of
Uh-huh.
thing. And then Han just kind of just watching the background with the ladies around him, all cool, and just slowly
Yeah.
snacking. It's so good. It so gets me
It's
every
so
single
good.
time. It's so
He's
cool.
so
So cool.
cool. And it's literally the old like as and I he, it was one of those moments where as soon as I saw him and I because I knew who he was just from like all of you guys like talking about it.
Yeah.
But like as soon as I saw him, I literally out loud did one of those, there he is. There he is. Um yeah, he's so cool and he's so chill and like laid back. And I love his whole arc that he gets throughout the movie because he's technically not a good guy when you first meet him. Like he's working for DK, who is the nephew of the head of the Yakuza, and he's like, shaking people down for money. Like he's not a good person. But towards the end, he's like actually he is a good guy.
Yeah, when you look at it, just so he's an outsider, and Sean and a lot of those characters, that central characters that Sean becomes friends with, they're outsiders too. They're not from
Mhm.
Tokyo proper. They're all outsiders coming in, and Han is sort of like the guy. Like he just looks at. I think he appreciates Sean's moxie for standing up to
Mhm.
DK. That's why he lets him use his car, which is the Mona Lisa of the drift road. It's like, Joe, dude, what are you doing? And then it's just like, and you find out later when Han's like, it's a car, man. And I have
Yeah.
money, it's whatever, that's not important to me. And then so he just does it. And also too, when they're going up the race, I just love how Han like is late going into the elevator by himself when he's still
Yeah.
snacking. But what I love about Han is his openness to accept people. And I mean, if you just look at,
Mhm.
in his garage, there's bunks for anybody who needs one. And he hangs out with them, make sure they have a place to go, a place to stay. So I think that's really, really cool. And it shows that he does have a big heart and that he is very much a big family kind of
Mhm.
guy. And I love him for it.
Oh, absolutely.
And he's
He's
cool doing it.
he's the absolute best. And then of course, like doing this research, I then learned that people loved him so much that when they made the next 3 movies, they like put him in but like retroactively so that like though like then the next 3 movies, so 4, 5 and 6 take place before Tokyo Drift so people can get more Han.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy when I cannot spoil anything
Mhm.
for the next film. When you see him, it's like, wait a minute, what? And like, oh, like, okay, maybe this is a prequel, and then they're gonna jump ahead, blah blah. And this is just it's a little fun little cameo for us fans who like him. And then you go forward, it's like he's in the cast list, he's in this trailer, he's in this movie. Like, wait, what's going on? Where is this lining up? And it's just and then, which really makes the timeline and the year of crazy in
Mhm.
Tokyo, like big. There were big retro into flip phones
Yeah.
and those big bulky laptops
Right.
that we had back.
The
It's like,
continuity's
what was
not
he doing?
quite there, but I appreciate the effort for it.
And the
Well, sure.
iPods.
Yeah. The broke iPods. Bow Wow in this movie. I forgot that Bow Wow was in this movie. And it's like young Bow Wow. Like
I
he
know.
just like kicked off the little because he's no longer little Bow Wow anymore. He was just Bow Wow. But I the reveal of like his car, that Hulk themed Volkswagen.
So cool. It's so cool. It's so ridiculous, but it's so cool.
It's
It's like,
so
man, my car is one of a
ridiculous.
kind.
It
And they go through, and you think, oh, is that his car? He's like,
mm-mm.
no. And it keeps changing and changes. Like my life, be like,
Yeah.
ooh
And
ah.
like
So
they're rotating through really nice cars, which is why I feel like the like really like good like sports cars, like Sean is there and he's into it. He's like, wait, is it that one? And so like when it reveals that it's this Hulk themed car, you just see the look on Sean's face. It was perfect. I thought it was absolutely, and he's like, and you have Bow Wow is just so so proud of it.
Yeah, the big fist in the back too.
Uh-huh.
Ah, so
It
cool. Because and us too when they first meet, it's like, hey man, no, you didn't have a laptop, and it's like, yeah man, I ain't got no cash, man. Like leave me alone, whatever, don't bother me. And then he just sees like his steering wheel, and
yes.
it's like, oh, you got a car? What kind of car you got? Because he's big into
Yeah.
cars, and which I just love. It's like that's how they get to be
Mhm.
friends. It's not because they're both, like one's an army brat, one's a navy brat kind of thing. And Sean's like, no man, I ain't gonna be around here long enough to remember your name, kind of
Yeah.
thing. It's like, all right, well,
Um,
just trying to sell you some sweet
Some sweet
Nikes.
night.
Enjoy
He's got
these.
some good shit. Just buy his
Yeah,
stuff. I do have to say
yeah.
one of my favorite things about some of these movies is just any movie where they put people that are supposed to be in high school that are very, very clearly not don't look anything like they should be in high
Mhm.
school. Like Lucas Black, who is when he like comes out of the shower and he's like full chest of like
Chest hair, yeah. It's like he looks
his
like he's
you
30.
can
Yeah,
see like his hairline is starting to recede just a little bit.
and even everyone else, like in the beginning when they're in the high school scene, in the beginning, the opening of the movie, and it's everybody, and like Zachary Ty
Yeah.
Bryan, who I think that was after Home Improvement
Mhm.
ended too, when he was already like old.
Yeah.
It's like high school, supposed to be like 17 years old or whatever. It's like I don't think
It's
so.
so great. Or like speaking of like racing, like going back to the beginning of this movie and that first racing scene, I think you're getting your classic fat like this is how you know it's a Fast and Furious movie. You're getting one of those classic race scenes with, Sean in the muscle car and Zachary Ty Bryan in the sports car and like the gender roles for this movie are very early
I
2000s.
know. Very early mid to mid 2000s. I mean, it doesn't necessarily age very well, but I mean, come on. I'm sure just like you when we were in high school,
Sure.
we definitely raced for
What
girls
and
and
pink
all the
slips.
time.
Yeah, no, for
Yeah,
sure. For sure.
all the time. Did all the time.
For sure, as I sat
It
on the
was
front
part.
seat
It
in
was
a
the time.
very dangerous position looking at my boyfriend losing a race saying, "I thought you loved me. Like, you're gonna let me like, you're gonna let this man take me away from you because he won a race? Who'da thunk?" Or,
Yeah.
also being in the back of the starting car, and using my bra as the flag to just
I mean, it's just something that we did back in the day. I mean, sure. I mean, now it's frowned upon, but back in the day, I mean, we the world was great. If you were not familiar with the world back in about 2006, it was a fun world to live in. There were no rules. It was cool.
back before we
I
all
mean,
went woke. I'm just kidding.
yeah, geez, God,
But that was great. I do really like all the way that they do all the racing in this movie because it's bringing to light a different style. And I think that was really cool. Like I liked the shakeup of like now we're getting into drifting. And you even see it on like Sean's face when Bow Wow's like, "Do you know why they call him DK? He's the Drift King." And he's Sean's like, "What drifting, huh?" And you just watch like just how bad he is at it. It's hilarious.
yeah, like yeah, you know what DK stands for? Donkey
Yeah.
Kong? No, well, yes, but not in this
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
scenario. And, and just, I just, yeah, you love how Sean's all cocky because Sean definitely like that's where he's comfortable in the garage or behind,
Mhm.
behind a wheel, racing. And then DK's just staring at him like, dude, you don't know what you're doing. Like, this isn't gonna be. I'm gonna embarrass you, kind of thing. And everyone's like, dude, you're in way over your head. You need to. You don't know who this guy is. You can't do this. And then of course Han's just like, yeah, I want to see what he's got. Let's see what you got, kind of
Yeah.
thing. And then they go, and Sean's like, oh, I'm so much faster than this guy. I'm gonna beat him. And then he sees that turn. He's like, oh shit. And then DK just he had this cool in his cool car with that cool smile on his face, and he drifts, and it's like, oh shit, dude, Sean, you are fucked.
I love the shot during that first like racing scene for when he's in Tokyo where you're watching DK's car like against that wall and it's just like barely like it's just right there like you just see like how good this guy is. I just thought like the way that this camera caught these angles cuz a lot of I think the majority of the racing in this movie is all practical car like practical
Yeah,
right which is
yeah,
insane.
yeah. Justin then yeah, big on like practical shots and stuff like so. Like you see like in other films that he's directed in the franchise, you can tell, particularly like Fast Five is like the big one where you the big practical shots through Brazil and everything like that, which is crazy awesome. It's just so cool.
It definitely makes I think it makes a big difference because I would rather watch that than like CGI cars, jumping around. Like I watched the movie because of it just I mean, that whole first scene right there, like my heart was like in my chest, like watching this car drift and then watching Sean come behind it and like you feel it as it hits too. You're just like, oh fuck. Oh no.
That poor car too, and especially after yeah, this is the Mona Lisa of the drift world, and we all know what that means, like the Mona Lisa,
It's
like that painting,
yeah.
what that, so that idea of what that means, and you see that car, and Han just comes up to him and is like, just don't leave town, which is such a bad, when he says it so calmly, it's so badass,
Yeah.
like shit, like what did he mean? Like is he gonna
Am
kill
I gonna
Sean?
die? Like
Something.
what's gonna happen?
It's like it's a
Um
very expensive
it's a
car.
very expensive car.
Someone who's also in high school who has no money.
He just wrecked this very, very, very pricey and expensive car. Um, Another there he is moment that I had too was when Sonny Chiba showed up as DK's uncle as the head of the Yakuza. That was cool as fuck. I'm like,
Yeah,
that's Sonny Chiba.
yeah, a legitimate actor,
Legitimate
legitimizing
actor in
this as
this.
a franchise, and there you go. And
Seriously.
he's so cool, and he takes it so serious, but he looks like he's having so much fun
Mhm.
in it. And it's just like I just love the idea. Like he's big time actual yakuza, and then compared to what we see throughout the film,
Mhm.
DK Takashi, who, as Han says, is like, yeah, they're just playing gangster. Like I'm not scared of this guy. I mean, his uncle's the one that's connected, but DK, he's not really. I mean, look, he's out of like a pachinko
Yeah.
shop backroom kind of thing, and it's like that guy doesn't know what's going on, what he's doing, kind of thing. He's like, hey, my uncle's yakuza. I'm big time. I'm cool. I'm
Yeah,
tough.
and I think that really plays out when, like, Sonny Chiba tells his nephew, like, "Hey, this friend of yours is stealing from you. Like you're supposed to be in charge of this and sending me this money. So why am I the one that's realizing he's taking from you?" And like Han knows it too, right? Like he knows that DK doesn't
Mhm.
give a shit. Like he's not gonna know. He's not paying any attention. So I love every time that like DK just gets like his ass handed to him by somebody because he's just a dodo.
Yeah, and he's a really shitty
He's
boyfriend
a
too.
very shitty boyfriend. I'm glad Neela got out of
He's
that one.
he's very cool, but very very shitty.
Which again, are we is D how old is DK? Why is he dating high school girls?
Okay, that's the one mystery that I cannot find a good info, because we know that Neela was raised by his grandmother
Right.
after her mother died. So I've always imagined that he's just like an older sort of, maybe just like right out of like high school, or like just like college age, but I could never
Like an exact
find
age for him?
an act a good age.
Yeah. Because
Um
it's like he's definitely like, he's one of those where like if he does not look like he looks like he's in his mid 20s is what he looks like.
yeah.
Like he looks like a grown ass man dating someone that's supposed to be like 17 years old.
Yeah, 17, 18 at the most, being in high school. Because if Sean's supposed to be 17, and we know that he's not.
Not. He's definitely not. But past all of that, um,
But
kind of getting back into I do want to, without giving too much away about the other movies, I would love to know like your specific ranking of the Fast and Furious movies.
okay, so I will preface this by saying this can change on a daily
Sure.
basis. So, but if you're gonna ask me right now, okay, my number one is probably is I'm gonna for today, Fast Five. Number two, Fast Six. Number three, Furious Seven. Number four, Tokyo Drift. Number five, the original. Number six, F9. Number seven, Too Fast, Too Furious. Number eight, Fast and Furious. Number 9, The Fate of the Furious, or the eighth
Mhm.
film. And then right at the bottom, the Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw, because it's the one that's the most least connected to the franchise. Although it's very fun, I have a blast whenever I watch it. I love Jason Statham and The Rock clipping together,
Sure.
and Kirby is also beautiful and amazing as well.
Love that. So, is that one that if I'm trying to watch the entire franchise now before the 10th one comes out that I have to throw in, or could I, like, skip it?
I would say you should definitely watch it because I think it gives some great stuff with Jason Statham and just sort of his maybe more of idea of like where his character is going, his journey as well, and also Helen Mirren is in it as well, and she's
Who doesn't love
a
Helen
treasure.
Mirren? Who doesn't love Helen Mirren?
Exactly.
Look, if someone had told me that Kurt Russell was in these movies sooner, I probably would have watched them. Probably being a very big probably, but now that I've watched this one and I know that Han is in more of them, I want to watch all of them because I love him.
Yeah, definitely worth it. I think you'll have a really good time, and especially if you can. Some people who, I mean, I know are like, this isn't cinema, blah blah, whatever. I'm never gonna watch these movies, blah blah, whatever. It's like, okay, if and then some of those people who say
Mhm.
that, if you want me to watch your whatever artsy fartsy movies that are supposed to be big dramatic events and whatever great performances, then why can't you just put on a cool action movie, turn your brain off at least, and just have fun?
Right. No, I
It's just
100% agree with
really
you. That's
cool.
what I love about doing this podcast is like I cover like I every type of film and genre I want to cover. I want to have it all out there. But these I feel like these movies are very necessary movies to have in the sense that like if not just like the Fast and Furious movies, but like just what they do in general. Like you say, like a fun like I know when I'm watching The Rock that I'm not going in for like the most stellar acting performances. I think Sean Connery is amazing. I think that Nicolas Cage is being Nicolas Cage, but I know I'm going to go in and have a really fun time watching shit blow up, right? Like, why not?
Yeah, exactly. That movie's awesome, and and it also does feature uh, a performance by one of the all-time great actors today. Who, again, where he's his Oscar, I mean, he should have multiple Academy Award wins at this point. I mean, Ed Harris obviously is a treasure. We love Ed Harris as
We
well.
do love Ed
He's a
Harris. We do.
very fine
You're
actor.
welcome, PLD. We all admitted it, just for you.
Uh,
Um,
accept that paycheck
yeah,
now.
we'll take those royalties. Um,
Thank you.
but yeah, no, like I think you're absolutely right. Like if you can't there's a place I think that there's a place for all types of genres, and I think that a movie like Tokyo Drift or really just any of the Fast and Furious movies are good in the sense that, like you said, it you can just shut your brain off. When I come home from a really bad day at work, I don't want to sit down and watch something that's going to make me think. I want to watch like Big Trouble in Little China and see Kurt Russell being cool as fuck, right? Like I don't want a
Yeah,
thinker, like I want something fun. And I think that this is definitely a good arsenal of films just to have that are just going to be fun and absurd and insane. And I think that's what's amazing about this one too.
yeah, and exactly too. I mean, again, not every movie should make you feel sad and depressed and make you want to cry. Although at some points these movies do make me cry because they're emotional at times
Mhm.
and beautiful, and they do things emotion very very well, and particularly in Furious Seven, which is another great one. But yeah, just fun. But particularly this one too. It's just so
Yeah.
cool. Particularly. I would be remiss to mention the one of my favorite quotes in the entire franchise, not just this movie, is when they're watching them play on the rooftop, watching them play soccer, and then someone's like, hey, like Han, he's foul, whatever. Why don't you call it? And he's like, hey man, what look like a
Yeah.
zebra? And then like, whatever kind of thing, which is very funny. And he and Sean just shoot this shit and
It's great.
kind of thing like, hey man, why'd you give me a car? Kind of
Yeah.
thing too, and just goes into that the whole thing. Like I have money. It's trusting character, that I need around me,
Yeah.
and like what's the point of, and also too, like what's the point of a race?
Mhm.
It's like, to win. It's like, I mean, no, not really, man. It's just, if I want to race, it has to be for for a good reason kind of thing.
Mhm.
It's like, damn, dude, I so get that. I just feel that in my heart. I just get it, man.
Yeah.
That's why he's the
Well, I
coolest.
feel like that's very much he's coming into that. It's this film's version. It's like their parallel of Dominic in like the first, like he technically Dom in the very first movie is not a great guy. They're stealing DVD players off of trucks with that sweet move where they drive the car under the truck. I've always thought that was fucking
That's so
amazing.
cool.
It's one of the coolest stunts ever. But like he's not supposed to be a good guy, but it's, for him, like it's like everything's about family. Like we do this for our family. We're doing it for each other. And you're kind of seeing those parallels between Dom and a character like Han, at least in my head. And by what you just said, that's exactly what I thought of.
No, that definitely makes sense. Yeah, again, I mean, going back at the first film with Dom and his crew, it's like, yeah, they are the bad guys. Brian is undercover. He's hunting them down, figuring out who it is, and it's you think. Also, there's Johnny Tran and his
Mhm,
his gang, which again they're not good people
mhm.
either. But I mean, yeah, Dom they stole a lot dollars worth of DVD players and some VCR DVD combos as well.
The
Um,
VCR DVD
I mean,
combos.
geez,
Talk
I
about an
still don't
early
understand.
2000 flick. For real.
I mean, I still don't. Yeah, I still don't understand. Like, I mean, they're worth a lot of money, and I don't know where they were flipping them and how much they were getting for them. But hey, all power to them. Good for them. And trying to make a living. I'm
Yep.
not just doing tune-ups, but yeah, I mean, yeah, again, yeah, Han. He knows he's a bad guy. He's a gangster. He's ripping off another gangster, which is a very dangerous
Very
thing to
dangerous
do,
thing to
which you
do.
do not do. But I mean, he's also just a mechanic and helping people out, and which is really cool. And so he does have a good heart.
Mhm.
And again, he's just so cool. And also too, isn't one of the coolest scenes when he's basically like answers Sean, asks him, "So why do you race?" And then he just drifts around those two chicks in that one
Uh-huh.
car, and it's just so cool. And they're just looking at
Uh-huh.
him. And he's just like, "What's up?" And then you see one of them like writing down her
Uh-huh.
number and just passes it to him. And then he's like, Sean just looks at him and he's like, "Yeah, dude, I did
Yeah.
that."
Oh, it's so
So
cool.
cool,
It's
so cool. I
so
wish I could do that.
cool.
I wish I could do
Don't
that. I
oh
wish I could do that.
god. Yeah. No,
So cool.
Han is just he just I mean, again, we talked about at the start of this episode, like the way he's just sitting there eating his little snack and just looking cool. As there's a reason why that gif is everywhere because he just looks so cool. Like that's all I want to do is just hang out with him. I'd rather hang out with him than anybody else in that movie. Maybe Bow Wow. I'd probably hang out with Bow Wow too because he seems fun. But definitely
And
Han.
he's your hookup.
Yeah,
Get you some, get you some Snickers bars,
exactly.
Twix bars, probably Kit Kats. I mean, anything you
He's
need,
got it.
he's
He's
got
got
it.
it. That's the exactly.
I always got
He's
it, but
he's
he's
the
got the
man in the
hookup.
chair for you later on down the road for sure. Um, so I have to ask then, so with this movie, we know we have a bunch of quotes that you love and everything. What would be your not in any particular order, but like your top 3 moments with Tokyo Drift?
Okay. Oh, okay. So number one is the conversation with Han and Sean on that rooftop because it's so great. I just love that so much. Geez. Number two, I'm gonna I think just because it's thinking about it just making me laugh. I'm just gonna do it. After in the beginning, after the race and the accident, when they're in the police station, bloodied up, you know, and he just looks over at her and smiles, and his face is all bloody,
Oh my
his
god.
mouth.
Yeah.
And then I'm just gonna assume that's just Tabasco sauce on his forehead because I mean when he's bouncing
Yeah.
around, do you see the Tabasco
Yeah.
going around? I mean I just love that. That's also too, a great gift too if you've seen it of just him smiling with the blood in his teeth. I love it. It's
Yeah.
funny. Um, and then also what I really do love, I think is great when he and after Han's supposed
Mhm.
death, and then you go back to his dad's place, and DK shows up there, points the gun at him. It's like kind of scary, and then Sean's father shows up and pulls on him, and it's like bad idea, man. You don't want to do
Yeah.
that, man. Like get out of here. Like you know, don't fuck with my
Yeah.
kid. Like even though his father is maybe not the best dad. He
Mm-mm.
he he comes up big in the
He
end.
sure
Some
does.
might say he's the MVP
By giving them
of
that
this film.
car to race down the mountain that the only person that's ever succeeded is DK. Which, by the way, what, like, his uncle very clearly is like, "Yeah, fuck it, fine. If he loses, I'll kick my kid out of Tokyo, whatever. I don't give a shit. Like, I'll kick my nephew out. Like,
Yeah,
what are we gonna do about it? Like, it's fine." Like, just ruthless.
yeah, and even too, like also too, I'm going back to the scene where he confronts DK about Han stealing money from
Mhm.
them, and then he just goes to the thing, and then which just sets off DK, but he sees like the photo on the desk and it's just like, I miss your father, and you think about, wait a minute, what happened to DK's dad?
Yeah.
Did he get whacked? Did he get taken out or
Right?
something? Like
But then
that's what
also,
I think
like, imagine how, like, degrading that must feel for DK, right? That, like, he's being compared, like, it almost feels like he's like, "I miss your father, but I don't give a shit about you." Like, that's who I miss. Like, your father would never have screwed up this way, the way that
happened. Yeah.
you are right now. Even if he did screw up and now he's whacked and gone, he would at least notice what if someone was stealing money from him.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that DK's dad could have fucked up and
Mhm,
like extra rolled. Sometimes things happen. Maybe a rival took him out or
mhm,
something, or maybe DK's uncle got him whacked.
uh-huh,
I don't know. It's up to interpretation. I don't
yeah.
know, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
oof.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I would have to say for me, one of my favorites is the first scene where so like when Han starts having Sean driving for him and he's like, "Hey, you're going to go collect money for me." And he takes him
Oh
to
yeah.
the spa and he goes in to
Mhm.
like collect the money from like that big old sumo wrestler guy. He just shucks him out. And again, there's Han standing against his car eating, looking cool as shit, and just like shrugging. And you just watch Shawnee gets up and he goes back in and he gets thrown out again. But then the guy comes out this time and like throws the money at Han. Like, here it
Yeah.
is.
So not at Sean, who was sent in to get the money, who clearly failed, but he's
Twice.
like, oh, this price. Like, dude, this kid's just keep bothering me.
Mhm.
So he goes down. Like, yeah, here you go,
It's
Han. Here you
great. And
go.
like Han just like, all right, get up. We got a lot more to do. Like, you got more money to get
Yeah,
from me. So I
yeah. Dude,
love,
I don't care if you're sick as a dog or on a date with
yeah.
Beyonce. If I call, you show. I love that line too. So good.
um, I also, I mean, I really, really loved watching that very first drifting race. I don't wanna say, like, the first race of the movie, but, like, the very first drifting race where you're seeing this new style of racing, and again, I think what it does so well, kind of like how what the first one did with, like, the muscle car and, like, everything that they did in the first one, it just shows driving and racing in such a cool fucking light. Like, I was so hyped. I'm like, "Imma go learn how to drift now." I'm not anymore. I got smart after 24 hours after watching it, but at the time, I was like, "That looks so cool," and then when Neela was doing it, I'm like, "Fuck yeah, chicks can drift, like, let's go." So yeah.
Yeah. You wouldn't have that problem with the V8. And I was like, oh, typical boys. Well, but yeah, I love Neela too. She's a really great character, really fun. And just her, I mean, her tragic backstory.
Mhm.
We talked about like what happened with her mother dying, who was a hostess, which in Japan would be, like an
Yeah,
escort servant kind of thing. And I mean, taken in though, being raised though um, by another family, DK's grandmother, which is very nice. And then we saw what happened with DK. But again,
right.
I think she's very fun and also someone who, I mean, obviously Sean's attracted
Yeah,
to. And even though in I Love when Han says, why can't you just find a nice Japanese
yeah.
girl?
There's so many other
So
women in Tokyo, like, why this
why
one?
just
Like,
this one?
yeah.
And everyone knows, like, oh, dude, why are you talking to her, man? You know who she's with, like, who
Right.
her man is? Jeez, like, you can't do that.
Oh, Sean, he loves living life dangerously. And then,
Mm-hmm.
of course, I have to say one of the best moments, and we're because we go into full spoilers, is there's an uncredited cameo at the end of this movie, and it's none other than Dominic Toretto himself.
It is so cool, especially when, like, hey, we got a new challenge for the new
Uh-huh.
DK. And it's like, not Twink. Like, he's taking that off. He's not racing. And it's like, hey, he said he knew Han. He said Han was
As
family.
soon as that
And
line
of
was
course,
dropped too, I was like, "I knew it.
oh my,
He had to show up. He was coming here." And then, like, their little
it,
exchange, it was
I love too when you hear the music and you see the back of the car, like, yep, yep, it's Dom. He's Dom, and he just like looks over
Yep.
and he's like, "Not rad." It's like I went with my friend Han a few years ago.
Mhm.
I didn't know Han, like, whatever American
Uh-huh.
muscle, whatever.
You
It's like
did when he was
he
rolling
was
with me.
me. It's like, oh shit, they
Yeah.
know each other. Oh, it's so
With that
cool. World building.
perfect shaved, bald, beautiful head of his. Oh, it was perfect. It was honestly, I'm really glad again, if it's on Wikipedia, it's true. Supposedly that was added in afterwards with like because they were showing the movie with test audiences, and they decided that like a cameo at the end would be like what really ties it all together. And it did really I mean, I liked like if they ended it with like him winning the race and like whatever, that would have been fine. But like it got me so hyped seeing Dom.
Yeah, it's also to, I mean, connect, and it goes also to a deal to get with the Riddick
Mhm.
because that's
Right.
his other baby franchise to get those rights and
Mhm.
stuff like that. But it's also cool because again, it's world building. It's showing that connecting really good way to connect these, the OGs
Right.
now to a new sort of together and where we can go. And now we know, okay, in the future, yeah, it's like we're gonna we should get Dom back into the movie, and Paul Walker and everybody the OGs
Mhm.
together, which we end up getting, which is great and awesome. And then for the future, and also too when Sean, also I love when Sean asks me like, yeah, like, you ready for this one? It's like the whole like, it's this ain't no 10 second
Right. Oh my god,
10
when he
second.
did that, there's this ain't no 10-second race. I was like, "Whoa, yeah."
And then when I'm just like, I got nothing but time.
Yes.
Like,
God,
fuck, that was so
so
cool. And
cool.
then the two ladies, Neela and the other girl, starting
Uh-huh.
the race, like ready, and you see Dom getting like serious
Mhm.
mode.
Mhm. And
Shit.
I love the
Is
I
Dom gonna drift? Is Dom gonna drift? And then it ends like, oh, I'm glad it ended
Me
that
too.
way.
And I love the one of the shots that I love in this movie, no matter how cliche it is, I love the shot of the up close of them in the driver's seat, revving the engine, getting ready to go for the race. I love it. I love when they go from like trash talking to like serious Dom face,
Yeah.
serious Paul Walker face, or serious Brian. Like just
Yeah.
I love it so much. It's just like it just oh, it's like a that's like it's like my fist pump moment. Like shit's about to go down. It's amazing.
It's awesome too. I mean, because he's racing, and particularly you brought up and Paul Walker and
Mhm.
Brian O'Connor. Like, I mean, him racing. It's for him. It's about earning respect too. And this is also too. I mean, a race where it's like, okay, where he's like, this kid doesn't think I can drift, kind of thing, or I can
Mhm.
hang with this kind of style. Like, also too, like when when you were prefacing that Dom's here, when you're saying like, dude, like this guy's been going all over. He's been winning race after race after race. Like this isn't some fucking schlub off the street. Like
Right.
this is a serious guy. Like, oh shit. And you find Dom's like, okay, that makes sense. Dom's a pretty good street
Mhm.
racer. He's pretty damn good, and it's really hype just to see him.
Yeah.
I love it. Great
Oh,
moment.
absolutely.
Also, too, a special shout out to a previous race starter of the first drifting race scene. A kid like who starts. I think he walks out with like a cigarette and like flicks it,
Yeah.
and just he's so cool. He's like,
Yeah.
yo, it's so
Go.
cool. He's so fucking cool
This
too.
movie is
Shout
full
out
of
to him.
so and
Great
it's cool.
performance.
It's not even just like the cool people in this movie, the shots that Justin Lin gets of like the cities, especially all the night shots with all the lights and the bright like the scene where they're like racing around like the people in the cul-de-sac in like one of the busiest like streets in the world. It was just all of these things I think are just it just makes the movie super cool, which is why I think it's ridiculous. I mean, I guess I get it, but like it sits at like a 38% on Rotten Tomatoes for like a critics rating, but has an audience rating of 69%. So we're adults. It's fine. Um, but I mean, I guess I get it because like critics take themselves very seriously. Um, but all in all, this was I had a good time with this. This was a really fun movie to watch.
Yeah, it's one that has definitely over time gotten a bigger, I don't want to say cult
Hmm.
audience or cult following, but it's definitely grown in popularity amongst the fan base and people who are not necessarily big fast fans are like, yeah, I love Tokyo Drift.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Oh, for sure.
Which is also a great thing because when Lucas Black was on NCIS New Orleans, there was an episode where there was a car garage, and there's shots of him like going of drifting, going around level to level, and there's just a shot of him like inside the like the car, and the driver's seeing a big smile on his face.
That's awesome.
And everyone who's watching who knows that was 100% a tip of the cap
Mhm.
and a little special love to Sean Boswell of the Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift and subsequent Fast and Furious films that he's been in.
I love that. That's
Time
awesome.
it's
Um,
awesome. It's cool.
well, I think that's a great place to kind of get into my letterboxed ranking of this movie out of 5
5 out of
stars.
5. We know. Yep.
Um,
Number one.
Number 1. I will say, I mean, this was a really, really fun movie. It's definitely like a turn your brain off, have a good time, watch. You're not sitting with it for all the dialogue. Like there's some great lines in it, but it's still a little surface level. But all in all, it's a really good time. I would give this one 3.5 stars.
I was right. 5 out of 5. Correct.
Absolutely,
I'm very,
100%.
very happy.
No, it's definitely not money. It's not the worst that I've watched so far. Okay, like I've seen some other people would disagree on where I feel on how I feel about some of these movies, but no, this was fun. I had a really good time with this. Well, John, thank you so much for joining me. This was an absolute blast. We will have you back again very, very soon for the next installment of the Fast and Furious franchise that I need to watch. But until then, where can all of my lovely listeners and viewers find you?
Well, once again, thank you for having me. I'm so glad this is the new number one ranked film on this podcast. I'm very excited, very deserving, very, very great. But if you want, you can find me on Twitter at JON_LASTRINA. So again, if you like some more Fast and Furious content, I'm your guy. Also mixed in with some video game stuff, some wrestling stuff. I've been told I'm a great follow, so you can follow me there. And again, like mentioned earlier, I do pop out occasionally on the Montyverse, a great YouTube channel with some
Love the
great people.
multiverse.
Monty's awesome, great Power Rangers content. Um, there should be some more Fast X content coming there as well. Hopefully,
Mhm.
cross your fingers. And again, as well, the family show should be returning as well for Fast X. So hopefully that you'll be seeing that soon. And as well, I got to give a plug to the Fantastic Four
Absolutely.
podcast, the number one Fantastic Four fancasted podcast on the internet. Presumably, if you want to go back and listen to some more of my world building with the multiple episodes I've been on, uniting the Fast and Furious
Yes.
franchise universes with the MCU, Muppets, as well as I also believe the Dick Wolf
Yes. Yes.
produced universe as well. And then you can also listen to Allison's great episode on John Carpenter.
It was fun. I had a good time with that one. That's awesome. Thank you so much. And to every
And those are my
I loved
plugs.
it. Great plugs. And to everyone who is listening, if you're watching here on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that little thumbs up button, leave your thoughts in the comments. I would love to know your rankings of the Fast and Furious movies as well. And where does Tokyo Drift fall into that? If you're listening on your audio platform of choice, make sure you've also subscribed, rate, and reviewed to Flick and Reel. You can follow the show on Twitter at Reels Like Movies, and you can follow me at Allison Salamone. And until next time, my friends, be safe. I'm going to go watch some more movies. And don't forget, we don't got friends here. What do we have, John?
Family.
Family. Have a good one, guys. See ya.